Tonight, the Prime Minister to convene National Cabinet in Tasmania in a bid to resolve fuel shortages. Hello, I'm Guy Stayner. This is ABC News. Also tonight, the rate rise tipped to worsen financial distress for more than 1 million Australians, while the Tasmanian government bets on granny flats to help ease the housing crisis. The Devils prepare to fill the North Hobart pubs and stands on Saturday, and some Sam Kerr magic helps put the Tillies into the Asian Cup final. The Prime Minister has called a National Cabinet meeting in Tasmania tomorrow to resolve Australia's fuel supply shortages. A new supply chain czar will be appointed to coordinate the response, as fresh Treasury modelling confirms the war in the Middle East will push inflation even higher. Here's National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
On a wide open road in a wide brown land, diesel's considered the lifeblood of the Australian economy.
That's not the Australian way, I can tell you.
But in less than a month, prices have doubled, and in some towns, supplies are running out.
The war in the Middle East is disrupting supply chains. It's pushing up fuel prices.
In response, the Prime Minister is bringing together state and territory leaders to identify where the shortages are and how to get the fuel there. The operation to be coordinated by a new supply chain czar.
Of course, we're preparing for every contingency and will continue to do so.
We already have a fuel czar. His name's Chris Bowen, and he needs to do his day job.
Supplies are solid, according to the government.
I don't think rationing will be part of that consideration. It's not necessary at this stage.
Demand is the problem, with panic buying and stockpiling causing some servos to run dry.
We have seen some, what I've called un-Australian activity, buying jerry cans, selling it on Facebook Marketplace. That's just nuts.
That's not an answer to this problem. We need to be doing more here, as I know others have said, to bring on exploration and refining of fuels here in Australia.
With only 2 refineries left, Australia imports 90% of its liquid fuels.
These refineries, we had 6 when Angus Taylor was the Energy Minister, 2 by the time that he left.
Now well into its 3rd week, the war is taking a greater economic toll. In a major speech tomorrow, the Treasurer will reveal new modelling showing economic growth will fall further and inflation could rise above 5%, back to what it was in 2023. But this time around, there's little appetite for handouts, with the Treasurer favouring spending cuts and tax reform in his upcoming budget.
The economic consequences of this conflict are very serious, extremely serious, and potentially enduring.
And Australians will be paying the price. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
It's estimated almost 1.5 million households could now be at risk of falling into mortgage stress. Many Australians are rethinking their household budgets as the nation's big banks waste no time in passing on yesterday's interest rate hike, adding more pain and strain for those who are already struggling.
In Australian suburbs, mortgage pain is hitting home as news of another interest rate hike drives up loan repayments.
I was surprised because obviously everyone thought it would be coming in May.
I think it's a little bit ridiculous to put interest rate up 2 months back to back.
According to research from Roy Morgan, the latest rate rise could leave more than 1.4 million home borrowers at risk of mortgage stress once the rate increases are passed through. The Commonwealth Bank, ANZ and NAB will hike home loans on the 27th of March. For Westpac borrowers, it's the 31st.
Yes, we can help you with that today.
Calls to financial counsellors have increased.
After the interest rate rise, we saw our busiest February since before the pandemic, so since 2020.
Australians facing tough situations are being advised to get on top of their debt faster.
And that might mean calling up your creditors, calling up the bank or your telco or your energy company and explaining your situation and asking for a hardship arrangement.
The Reserve Bank's hiking interest rates to cool the economy and stop prices from rising so fast. Economists think it has more work to do.
We are forecasting another 25 basis point rate hike in May, and that will take the cash rate back to 4.35.
The pain for mortgage borrowers is expected to increase as the cost of living crisis collides with mortgage pain. But it's a different story for Australians who have paid off their home and have savings in the bank.
If interest goes up, that's good for me.
Other retirees are concerned for their children.
Two daughters have got mortgages and they're finding it a little bit tough.
Will affect our sons. So it's a hard time for them as well, with petrol rises as well.
A double whammy to the hip pocket nerve. David Taylor, ABC News.
One of Australia's defence bases in the Middle East has been damaged by an Iranian strike near Dubai. The federal government says the impact was minor and no Australians were injured. It comes as Israel announced the killing of another 2 senior Iranian figures.
A wave of Israeli airstrikes on Tehran targeting the besieged militia, a volunteer branch of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. Its commander, Gholam Reza Soleimani, killed, along with security chief Ali Larijani, one of the most powerful figures in the regime.
Our aircraft are hitting the terror operatives on the ground, in the crossroads, in the city squares.
Iran's response was swift. A missile strike killing 2 people in central Israel.
The roof caved in on top of an elderly couple that were inside of their apartment.
An hour after Larijani's death, Iran hit back. A barrage of missiles struck at least 5 sites in Tel Aviv. This usually busy train station hit in the fallout.
Iran's ongoing attacks on Gulf states are impacting Australia. The federal government revealing a fire caused minor damage at the Al Minad defence base in the United Arab Emirates after a projectile hit a nearby road.
I can confirm that no Australian personnel were injured and everyone is absolutely safe.
Australia has deployed a surveillance plane to the UAE, but isn't acting on Donald Trump's demands for countries to send ships to the Strait of Hormuz to protect oil tankers.
So we helped them and they didn't help us, and I think that's a very bad thing for NATO.
The US president adding Australia to the list of nations he's singled out on social media. We no longer need or desire the NATO countries' assistance. We never did. Likewise, Japan, Australia or South Korea.
I thought it was a petulant post from a president under immense pressure.
I'm not aware of any specific formal request for us to send ships into the Strait of Hormuz. It's not something that we've been considering.
The late, great Winston Churchill.
As the president bickers with international allies, he's also facing criticism from within. Counter-terrorism official Joe Kent resigning from his role, telling Mr Trump, Iran pose no imminent threat to our nation, and it's clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby.
I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. But
one of the first signs of internal dissent.
Thank you very much.
Bridget Rollison, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
The United Nations Human Rights Office is warning that Israeli airstrikes on residential buildings and displaced civilians in Lebanon could amount to war crimes. Israel's military says it's targeting infrastructure belonging to the Iranian-backed Hezbollah. The intense fighting has killed more than 800 people in Lebanon and forced nearly 1 million from their homes.
In the early morning, a building in downtown Beirut is levelled in an Israeli strike. This attack well outside Hezbollah's stronghold suburbs in the south, sparking concerns that nowhere in this city is safe. This unfinished council building is now an emergency shelter.
We had houses and we were living happy lives. Now we've become like this.
Charities forced to step in to deal with the humanitarian crisis.
How many meals are you cooking here a day?
About 2,000 hot meals.
As Israel expands its ground operations in the south and airstrikes there and beyond, and Hezbollah continues to fire upon Israel.
We are monitoring Hezbollah and all of its commanders, from Beirut to southern Lebanon.
Israel has demanded the evacuation of a huge part of the south, all the way to the Zahrani River and much of Beirut's southern suburbs. It's left more than 900,000 Lebanese displaced inside their own country. And this is the reminder of that ever-present threat from Israel, a strike just coming through in southern Beirut over there, just beyond the international airport. Not far from that blast, a school has been commandeered as accommodation for almost 700 people. 71-year-old Asriha tells us 11 people are sleeping in this half of one classroom.
It is a lot of pressure, and we are short on resources, especially if the war is extended and the displacement doesn't end soon.
Although finding reasons to smile in chaotic circumstances. Matthew Doran, ABC News, Beirut.
Back home, and a Tasmanian woman has died after she fell from a boat at Marion Bay in the state's southeast. Police say 4 people were in the boat about 600 metres from shore when a wave hit it, throwing 3 people into the water. 2 were rescued by a nearby boat, but the third, a woman aged in her 70s, was later found deceased. Police say all were wearing life jackets.
The Marion Narrows can be hazardous if you don't know the area and in rough conditions. There's nothing to say that that was the case today. I believe they might have been through the actual Narrows where it can get a little bit tricky. It's a freak accident.
The Tasmanian government wants to allow homeowners to build bigger granny flats in their backyards in a bid to increase housing supply. At the same time, a southern Tasmanian council is offering council rates relief to first home builders.
Inspecting a newly built granny flat, Tasmania's housing minister talks up the possibilities.
I'm going to need a granny flat shortly.
The state government wants to change planning rules to allow bigger ancillary dwellings. The plans will see the size of granny flats grow from 60 square metres to 90, meaning potentially a second bedroom, making room for a small family instead of just a single person or couple.
But this broadens the ability for families to stay together and use that ability of the site they're already on instead of having to sell and move to a different site.
HIA surveyed our members recently and it found our builders are expecting to build 10 times more granny flats in 2026 than in 2022. This is a huge demand for ancillary dwellings right across the state.
In another step to tackle Tasmania's housing crisis, Brighton Council will scrap general rates for first home builders in their first year, saving them $1,200.
Any encouragement that we can make to allow people to build their first home, whether it be in Brighton or another municipality, has to be a positive impact on the housing stock.
To be eligible, locals will need a valid first home builders grant, and the council says it will absorb the cost of the rate relief.
I think over the last 12 months we've probably only had about 30 to 40 first home buyers or builders in this particular municipality. We're hoping for a lot more, but even 40 by $1,200 isn't a great impost, and it is for 12 months only.
2 different responses to the housing shortage. Rani Fletcher, ABC News.
The Tasmanian government is remaining coy about whether the leadership of the state's soon-to-be restructured housing authority will get payouts. Former Liberal member for Bass, Sarah Courtney, was appointed chair of Homes Tasmania last month, while previous chair Ben Wilson became chief executive. 2 weeks later, the Premier announced Homes Tasmania would be abolished, with a new government department, Building Tasmania, to take over responsibility for public housing.
Are you going to give them places in the new structure? Will they be given payouts, or have they been given contracts to do nothing?
Homes Tas is still operational as it is at the moment, and as we have the final details and finalise those, more than happy to discuss those with you and outline all those points for you. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Tasmania's Parliament has passed 3 motions aimed at increasing government transparency, despite the government opposing 2 of them. A Greens motion calling on government businesses to keep a right to information disclosure log was passed unanimously. The government failed to prevent the passage of a motion from independent MP Christy Johnston. requiring cabinet submissions and briefing papers to be published 30 days after a final decision. And a majority of MPs also supported a Labor motion to establish an inquiry into alleged integrity failings by the government in the lead up to and during last year's state election campaign. Preparations are well underway both on and off the field ahead of Tasmania's return to the VFL. A sellout crowd is expected at North Hobart Oval on Saturday, and local hotspots are bracing for impact.
From the boardroom to barkeep, Brendan Gale can do it all. Devils fans tipped to pour into North Hobart establishments this Saturday.
Half the fun is not just watching the game, it's before and after the game, so we know we're on the march.
11,000 spectators are expected to witness Tasmania's return to the VFL at North Hobart Oval. Gale more than familiar with Tasmanian football's spiritual home.
I was lucky enough to play there, I think it was about 19, in 1990. We played against Victoria in a state of origin game. I understand there was about 18,000, felt like about 40 or 50.
9,000 tickets already sold. Saturday's crowd won't quite rival those seen at North Hobart in the 70s, 80s and 90s, but it's likely to be the biggest since the NRL came to town in 2012, prompting calls for upgrades.
Things like our entrances and exits, good Wi-Fi to ensure that people can access tickets really quickly and easily. Also some additional toilets would be really helpful.
The Devils face an early baptism of fire. Captain Robbie Fox already ruled out with a calf sprain.
The reality is it opens up another opportunity for a young aspiring Tasmanian or a mainland recruit that we've got in.
Jai Menzies steps in as skipper. Saturday's significance not lost on the former Bomber.
I think something like 160 years of history. So yeah, we've touched on that a little bit. We're so keen to get out there and show the Tassie faithful what we can do.
Saturday, the start of the Devils' on-field journey to the AFL. Hobart the focus for now, but with Matt Point not ready until 2031, York Park in Launceston looks likely to benefit.
I'd suggest it'll be a superior football venue to Bellerive, to Ninja. So it probably makes sense to ensure we're over-represented in those early years at Launceston.
Potentially as many as 6 Devils AFL games in Launceston from 2028. First things first, though, ahead of a historic Hobart hit-out. Chris Rowbottom, ABC News.
King Frederick and Queen Mary of Denmark have wrapped up the second day of their Melbourne tour before arriving in Hobart tomorrow. The Royals visited youth mental health organisation Headspace, with the King taking on some tough competition on the table tennis table. There have been few opportunities for Melburnians to meet the Danish monarchs. Instead, the Melbourne leg of the tour has focused on economic ties between Australia and Denmark. The King telling business and political leaders the two countries should be working together in what he says are troublesome times.
A partnership with the potential to make a real and lasting impact on some of the greatest challenges facing our nations and economies, namely the transition to secure renewable energy and the development of more energy efficient, low emission built environments.
The federal government has had its second rebuke in the High Court over its measures to force some of those released from indefinite immigration detention to live under a curfew and wear electronic ankle monitors. The government has played down the loss, but human rights advocates say it's a win for the rule of law.
The High Court turned the system on its head in 2023 by ruling indefinite immigration detention is illegal. But 2 efforts to address public safety concerns, including curfews and electronic bracelets, have flopped. The government is undeterred, pointing to its agreement with Nauru. The government's ambition was never about ankle bracelets. If someone has their visa cancelled, they should leave, and that's what we're determined to achieve. The High Court found an initial regime imposing the restrictions breached the Constitution because it amounted to punishment imposed by government rather than the courts. A second regime failed to overcome the problem. The opposition says it's a stuff-up.
The Minister needs to tell us exactly how
the government intend to ensure that there is no risk to the community as a result of the findings of the High Court.
But others say it's a victory for the rule of law, and the government should have looked at other ways of managing the group.
Being highly punitive, as the government has been, has proved counterproductive.
350 people have been released since the High Court's original decision, with 6 sent to Nauru so far. Today's decision will only affect 43 people, who'll now be placed on mandatory reporting conditions, which is effectively bail. Elizabeth Byrne, ABC News, Canberra.
Time for finance, and both BHP and Woodside Energy have new bosses in a changing of the guard in corporate Australia. Daniel Ziffer explains.
After 6.5 years, Mike Henry is leaving and mega miner BHP will have a new boss, Brandon Craig. Also today, oil and gas giant Woodside Energy has elevated Liz Westcott to CEO. That's less of a shock because she's been doing the job since December, when former Chief Executive Meg O'Neill fled to run BP. BHP is our second most valuable company, behind the Commonwealth Bank. But Brandon Craig will be getting a far less exciting pay packet than his outgoing boss, who earned $19 million last year. When I asked him today about the world on fire geopolitical situation of recent weeks, he described it as a pretty interesting time. So he's clearly got a flair for understatement as well as digging up copper. Shares in both companies lifted as investors cheered safe internal appointments to money-making behemoths. Stocks rose in the US as the world waits on interest rate decision from its central bank, the Fed, which is expected to keep rates in the range between 3.5% and 3.7%. Yes, ours are now higher than that. Brent oil fell but remains above $100 a barrel. Our dollar now above 71 US cents, its highest level in more than 2 years. And that's finance.
To sport, and the Matildas are back in Sydney, ready to fulfil their dream of winning the Asian Cup final on Saturday night. Their 2-1 win over China in Perth last night was once again inspired by some Sam Kerr brilliance, as this generation is on the cusp of finally winning a trophy.
She is incredible, Sam Kerr.
Kerr's career has been built on making the seemingly impossible look easy. But she's taken it to a new level at the Asian Cup, scoring a magical match winner for the second straight game.
Perfection from Sam Kerr.
I know I can be one of the best players in the world, and I think I'm showing that at this tournament.
Kerr is the only player in this current golden generation to have ever won a major tournament, the 2010 Asian Cup. Most have spent half their lives playing together and are also peaking at the right time.
Well, she's arriving on the spot.
We've been fighting so long to get here, and I just feel like finally it's paid off, and yeah, we deserve to be there and we deserve to be playing for a trophy.
It didn't all go the Matildas' way.
Mary Fowler.
Ford's opener was cancelled out by China's penalty to keep it level at the break. After Kerr's brilliance, the defending champions tried everything to keep their title hopes alive, but the Matildas wouldn't crack. As Emily Van Egmond came on late for a record-breaking 170th cap. The celebrations have been tempered with the harsh reality of what's needed next.
Our objective of getting to the final is complete. We know deep down in our hearts that we need to be better.
Now it's down to the last leg of an incredible journey to see if they can finish on a high.
And Amanda Shalala joins us now from Sydney, where the second semi-final is about to get underway. Amanda, which of these teams will the Tillies be backing tonight?
Oh, it's a tough one, Guy. Japan and South Korea have been the two best teams of the tournament so far. I'd say the Matildas would probably prefer the South Koreans. They had a 3-3 draw with them in the group stage. They're the world number 21 and they haven't beaten Japan in a competitive match in over 10 years. The Japanese women were the red-hot favourites coming into this tournament and they've shown why. They're the world number 8, the highest ranked team in Asia, and across their 4 games they have scored 24 goals and conceded none. So it would take a monumental effort to stop them tonight.
Amanda Shalala at Stadium Australia. Thank you. Collingwood veteran Scott Pendlebury may have escaped suspension at the AFL tribunal, but his case has only fuelled confusion about the rules. The Magpies premiership star was found guilty of a bumping offence, but had his punishment discounted due to his exemplary record.
427 games and Scott Pendlebury can still put his hand up. He's got the cleanest record in the AFL. And it worked in his favour after his representatives used that record to downgrade his suspension to a fine.
If you do something that's outside the rules of the game, then you should get penalised, whether you're a first-year player or whether you're a 21-year player.
The Magpies challenged Pendlebury's one-match ban, which would have been the first of his career. The AFL tribunal found he had bumped Crow Josh Worrell and fined him $3,000.
They say we'd let you off. No, you didn't. You connived to pull together, as I said, one result and then another to cover your backside.
Yep.
It leaves the competition and coaches with more questions on what is a bump.
I saw it, and the distinction between a brace and a follow-through they use, I thought he braced.
And former players frustrated.
I have a genuine problem that they think that contact was avoidable. That is a nonsense.
So talk through that as a player.
The chaos of the game where the ball bounces between two players, the ball is an egg shape. You don't really know which way it's going to bounce. So your movements are unpredictable because the ball is unpredictable in those split-second moments.
Players want to look after other players, but they're absolutely sick of the game being made harder for them. And a $1,500 or $3,000 fine, Pendles, don't pay it.
It means the 38-year-old stays on track to play his record-setting 433rd game at the MCG in round 8 or on Anzac Day in round 9 if the club rests their ageing star. Alexia Pesce, ABC News.
Australia's Winter Paralympians have arrived home after a 10-day campaign in Milano Cortina. Australia sent one of its biggest Winter Paralympic squads to Italy, and they returned to a warm welcome from family and friends in Sydney. Governor-General Sam Mostyn was also there to greet them. Veteran snowboarder Ben Tudhope was Australia's most successful athlete at the Games, claiming silver in the snowboard cross and bronze in the banked slalom.
To be able to compete at the world highest stage is fun. It's really fun, and yeah, that's why I do it. And if I can inspire the next generation to come up, that's why I'm here.
To the weather, and I didn't even need to check the location for tonight's photo. That's the Cape Wickham Lighthouse at King Island, with rain approaching, and the photo is from Dawn Hendrick. The gorgeous weather for most of the state continued today, and it looks like staying this way until about Tuesday. Campania had the state's top of 27 degrees. It reached 26 in Hobart. Launceston had 23, Devonport 20. There was just a little rain about the southwest yesterday. Queenstown had 3 millimetres. The satellite image shows very benign conditions over Tasmania, but less benign is tropical cyclone Narelle, which is forecast to strengthen to a Category 5 storm and is expected to make landfall along Cape York as a Category 4 system on Friday. Tomorrow we'll be in a ridge between two highs that will dominate our weather for the next few days and deliver another perfect weekend. Across the country tomorrow, rain in Sydney, Brisbane and Darwin, fine in Melbourne and Adelaide, and remaining hot in Perth. Back home it will be fine apart from isolated light showers about the west coast, briefly extending to the south during the morning. Any rain about the west should be less than a millimetre, 20 degrees in Queenstown, 20 also in Strawn, 21 for Burnie and Devonport and also on King Island. Launceston a top of 25 degrees after a low of 10, 21 in St Helens, 22 for Swansea. And Hobart can expect a top of 21 degrees after a low of 12. There's a medium chance of a shower about the far south, 21 degrees in Dover. Sunrise tomorrow will be at 7:10. On coastal waters, there'll be variable winds of 10 to 20 knots, reaching up to 25 knots about the southwest. There are no warnings. Friday will be fine and warm, apart from light isolated showers developing about the west and north. Saturday, fine apart from isolated showers about the west coast and also the far south. And the warm weather should continue on Sunday ahead of a possible late change on Monday, with showers becoming more likely on Tuesday. And if you have a photo you think would look good in our weather segment, you can send it to us at weatherphotostas@your.abc.net.au. And that is it for this evening's program. Don't forget, if you've missed any of tonight's stories, you'll soon be able to catch up on iView. 7:30 is next with Sarah Ferguson. See you tomorrow.